Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Maybe turn off the lights, put your phone face down and listen. Because this one stayed with me. I used to work as a seasonal firefighter in northern Montana. Not the heroic kind you see on TV. We were called red shirts, temporary hires, extra hands during wildfire season. We slept in tents, ate out of cans, and spent long nights walking the perimeter lines, watching for flare-ups, making sure the forest didn't turn into an inferno again. It was lonely work. No cell service, no noise except wind and distant thunder. That silence, it starts to feel heavy after a few weeks, like the woods themselves are waiting for something. This happened in late August, the third week of the Sawmill Ridge fire. I'd been assigned with a guy named Dave, tough, quiet, the kind of man who never said much unless it mattered. We'd been monitoring the western ridge, an area that had burned halfway through and then died out. Mostly black pine, smoldering stumps. The air still thick with that chemical sweetness you get from burned sap. We set up a small camp near the old ranger station, a wooden outpost nobody had used since the 90s. It still had the radio tower and the water tank, but the cabin itself leaned to one side, half sunk into the dirt. Nobody wanted to sleep inside. That first night, everything was still. Just wind and the creak of old trees. But around midnight, Dave said, "Do you see that?" I looked across the valley, and there they were. Lights, not fire, not flashlights, more like lanterns, 3 of them, glowing faintly between the trees, moving, slowly, deliberately. Dave thought it was another team checking hotspots. He even radioed command to ask, but dispatch said all crews were accounted for. Nobody was assigned to that sector. We watched those lights for a long time. They moved uphill, then vanished like they'd been swallowed by the fog. The next morning, our supervisor brushed it off. Said we were probably seeing reflections, sunlight on metal, but the sun hadn't even come up when we saw them. That night, they appeared again. Farther down the slope, same number, same movement, like someone walking a path we couldn't see. Around 2 a.m., our radio hissed to life. Static first, then a woman's voice, calm and steady. Evacuation protocol. Sector 4 compromised. I remember that exact phrasing, because Sector 4 was ours. Dave grabbed the mic. He asked for confirmation. But the signal dissolved into static again. When he called dispatch, they said no one had transmitted anything, and there were no female operators on duty that night. We didn't sleep after that. We just sat outside, listening to the wind move through the valley, and waiting for something to make sense. By sunrise, the smoke had thinned enough that we could see the opposite ridge, and that's when we noticed it. A small cabin, half hidden by trees, maybe a mile away. It looked old, abandoned, but it hadn't been there yesterday. I swear it hadn't. We checked the maps. No structures were marked in that area. The forestry log listed a cabin demolished in '94, the same year the ranger station closed. But that one had supposedly burned down completely. After lunch, Dave said we should hike over. Just to check, he told me. Make sure no squatters are out there. I didn't like the idea. But the thought of someone living that close to the fire line made me uneasy too. So we went. The hike took about an hour. The valley floor was soft ash and fallen branches. The smell of wet smoke clung to everything. No birds. No sound except our boots breaking through the crusted soil. When we finally reached it, I stopped cold. There was a perfect ring around the cabin. Green grass, untouched. Like the fire had stopped there, changed its mind, and gone around. Dave tried the door. It wasn't locked. It just swung open with this soft sigh. Inside, a cot, a lantern, a small table with a radio on it. Old, dusty, but not abandoned. And there was a clipboard on the table, with a list of names, firefighter call signs, dates next to them. The last one was Dave's. He laughed it off. Said it was a prank. But when I looked closer, the handwriting matched the supply logs we used at base camp. Same ink color, same slant, same pen pressure. Something about that made the room feel smaller. We left after that. Didn't say much on the hike back. The whole time I felt like someone was walking behind us. Not close, just following. That night, I woke to footsteps outside the tent. Crunching slow, deliberate circling. Dave whispered my name, asked if I heard it too. Before I could answer, the radio clicked on again. Static, then the same woman's voice, Sector 4. Compromised. The voice faded into static. Then silence. Just the low hiss of the radio and the wind pushing against the canvas walls. Dave grabbed the mic, but I stopped him. I don't even know why. Something in me didn't want to hear what might answer back. We sat there for maybe an hour. Neither of us talking. Just waiting for dawn to wash some reason into the world again. By morning, Dave looked wrecked. He kept rubbing his hands together, muttering that the voice had said his name after I fell asleep. I told him he was overtired, that the smoke, the long shifts, they mess with your head. But truth is, I'd heard something too. Right before the transmission ended, a sound I couldn't explain. Like breathing. But not from the speaker. From right behind me. When the sun came up, we packed our gear and told the supervisor we were rotating back down to base. He didn't argue. Said crews had been reporting weird interference all week. Radios picking up old emergency broadcasts, half-burned frequencies, ghost signals. He told us to take a day off, get some sleep. But Dave didn't rest. That afternoon, he went quiet. Didn't eat, didn't talk. Just kept looking toward the ridge where we'd seen the cabin. When I asked what was wrong, he said he kept seeing someone out there. A shape between the trees. Tall still, like it was waiting for him to notice. I told him not to go near it. Not after what we'd seen. But by dusk, he was gone. No radio. Just his gloves and helmet beside the tent flap. Command assumed he'd gone ahead to help another unit. That happens sometimes. Guys move between teams when things got chaotic. But by nightfall, every group reported in, and no one had seen him. I volunteered to help with the search at dawn. 6 of us hiked the ridge line. We found the clearing again, the one where the grass hadn't burned. The cabin stood there, same as before. Only this time, the door was closed. I called out his name. No answer, just a soft creak from inside. When I stepped closer, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Footprints. Dave's size, his boot pattern, leading straight to the door. None coming back. Inside, everything was different. The cot was gone. The radio was gone. But the clipboard was still there. And the list of names, it had another one added. Below Dave's, my own, I dropped it. Couldn't breathe. The paper felt damp, like it had been left outside overnight. But it hadn't rained. When I stumbled out, the other firefighters were gone. Not vanished, just moved. Like they'd stepped back into the trees to give me space. But their voices never came when I called. No echoes, no birds, nothing. Just the soft hum of static again. And that woman's voice, distant this time, coming through the forest itself. Sector 4. Compromised. Something shifted behind the cabin. I turned, and for a moment, I saw the lanterns again. 3 of them, standing in a row. Their lights steady, not flickering. Too bright for day, each one the color of dying embers. I ran, didn't look back. Didn't stop until I reached the service road where the trucks were parked. When I turned around, the ridge was empty. Smoke hung low over the valley, and the cabin was gone. The official report said Dave got lost in heavy smoke and poor visibility. They listed it as an accident. No recovery. I didn't argue. Didn't mention the cabin. Didn't mention the voice. Didn't mention the name that had appeared on that clipboard before I'd even written it myself. A month later, after the season ended, I was cleaning out my gear bag. Found my radio still clipped inside. Battery long dead. I don't know why, but I turned it on. And for just a second, before the light faded, the screen flashed the same frequency from that night. The same one on the old cabin radio, Channel 4, Sector 4, then static. I threw it out that same night. Haven't worked a fire line since, but sometimes, when I can't sleep, I'll swear I can hear it again. That same woman's voice coming faintly from somewhere deep in the dark, Sector 4. Compromised. And that's when I remember, some things once seen don't ever let you leave. It started with a wrong turn. That's how most of the bad stories begin, right? Except I wasn't lost. Not really. The GPS just went blank for a second. Glitched like it couldn't decide which road existed. I was driving through northern Utah, a stretch of land that looked endless in every direction. Flat desert, then a sudden drop into canyons that felt too wide to belong on Earth. I was moving cross-country after quitting my job in Denver, burned out, divorced, convinced that a clean slate waited somewhere west of nowhere. By sunset, I'd been driving for 11 hours straight. My eyes hurt and the road started to shimmer like a mirage. That's when the GPS blinked again, then offered a detour. Shorter route available, it said. A pale blue line appeared where there hadn't been one before, cutting through an unmarked area labeled only as Hollow Creek Service Road. I should have ignored it, but curiosity is its own gravity. The turnoff looked harmless, just a dusty path leading between scrub and rock. I slowed, glanced at the fuel gauge, half a tank, and told myself I'd rejoin the highway in 20 minutes. The first few miles were smooth enough. No houses, no signs, no other cars. Then the asphalt vanished. It became packed dirt, then gravel, then something else. Like old concrete, cracked and pale under the moonlight. When I stopped to stretch my legs, I noticed something strange. The air smelled metallic. Not dust, not desert, but iron like blood left to dry. I got back in the car. Tried to pull up a map, no signal, no GPS, no anything. I told myself I'd gone maybe 10 miles, so I'd just keep going until I hit a main road. But then the odometer ticked past 20, 30, and the landscape hadn't changed at all. No hills, no turns, just the same stretch of gray road disappearing into the dark. Then I saw headlights ahead. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. Finally, another person. But as the lights got closer, I realized they weren't moving. They stayed still, hovering just beyond a bend that shouldn't have been there. When I rounded the curve, the lights flicked off. Total black. Then silence. Even the engine sounded muted. I slowed to a crawl, scanning the shoulder for another vehicle. There was nothing. No tire marks, no dust kicked up, just a sign I hadn't noticed before. It read, "Service access, do not enter." But the metal was rusted, and the lettering was backward, like it had been printed for someone standing on the other side of it. My chest felt tight. I backed up, turned the wheel to head back the way I came, and realized the road behind me wasn't there anymore. Just open desert, flat silver-gray dust stretching under the moonlight. I remember gripping the steering wheel, telling myself I was tired, dehydrated, imagining things. But when I stepped out of the car to check, my boots left no prints in the dirt. Not one. Something flickered far ahead, a single light, warm and yellow, like a porch lantern. I didn't want to go toward it, but standing still felt worse. The light came from a small building. Looked like an old roadside diner. The kind you see in photographs from the 1950s. Chrome trim, peeling paint, a neon sign that read open 24 hours. Only the letters O and P still worked. I parked beside a row of cars so old they looked like museum pieces. Their windshields were coated in dust, but no footprints led to or from them. Inside, the diner smelled like coffee and rain. A bell jingled when I opened the door, and a woman behind the counter looked up with a practiced smile. Her uniform was spotless, crisp white apron, red collar. Everything about her looked too clean, too precise. like someone had restored her along with the building. "Rough night?" she asked. Her voice was calm, melodic, but the way her eyes didn't quite focus on me made my stomach twist. "Yeah," I said. Got a little turned around. My GPS sent me off some service road. She nodded, then said, almost to herself, "They do that sometimes." "Who does?" I asked. Her smile faltered for just a second. "The roads," she said softly. "They change when no one's watching." I thought she was joking, but the air in the diner felt wrong. Too still, like the building was holding its breath. "Can I use your phone?" I asked. "Sure," she said, pointing toward the wall by the jukebox. There was a rotary phone mounted there, bright red, perfectly polished. I lifted the receiver and froze. There was someone already breathing on the other end. Slow, steady, matching the rhythm of my own breath until I couldn't tell which was mine. "Hello?" I whispered, a pause. Then a voice, faint, dry, like wind through an empty tunnel. "You took the wrong road again." The line went dead. When I turned back toward the counter, the woman was gone. So were the lights. Only the neon sign outside still flickered, and through the window I could see my car headlights had turned on by themselves, and they were pointed away from the road I came in on, toward the desert, where there should have been nothing. I didn't move at first. I just stood there in the dark diner, listening to the hum of the neon outside, that sickly pink flicker that felt almost alive. The air was colder now, the kind of cold that bites your lungs when you breathe too deep. When I called out, "Hello?" my voice barely sounded like mine. Nothing answered. I walked toward the window, half expecting to see the waitress standing beside my car. But there was no one. Just my headlights, still glowing, aimed at the endless stretch of desert. I tried the phone again. No dial tone this time, just silence. When I hung it up, the bell above the diner door jingled. Someone had come in. I turned, and for a second I thought it was Nathan, the same man from the cleanup event months ago. But no, this man was older, his face half hidden by a dusty hat, his clothes sun-bleached and brittle, like he'd been standing in the wind for years. He walked straight past me and sat at the counter, his boots leaving no sound on the tiled floor. Then he spoke without looking up. "Coffee's cold again." I swallowed. I don't work here." He finally turned his head. His eyes were cloudy, a gray that wasn't just old age. Something else had filled them. Something hollow. "You're on Hollow Creek Road," he said, and the way he said it, slow, deliberate, made it sound like a warning. "I didn't mean to. Nobody does," he interrupted. "They drive and the road opens, and then they can't find their way back." I forced a laugh. That's not possible. It's just a road." He smiled then, a dry crack of skin that wasn't amusement. "It's not a road," he said. "It's a place that remembers." My chest tightened. "Remembers what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he looked past me toward the window. I turned and then froze. Out in the desert, my car lights were moving. But the car wasn't. The beams shifted on their own, slowly sweeping across the sand like eyes searching for something. And then, something reflected them back. A shape, tall, still, standing in the far distance. At first I thought it was a rock, or maybe a dead tree. But it was standing too upright, and it was getting closer. I ran for the door. The man didn't stop me. He just said quietly, "If you leave now, it'll follow the lights." I didn't wait to ask what that meant. I bolted outside, my breath fogging in the night air. When I got in the car, the driver's seat was warm, as if someone had just been sitting there. The engine started on the first try. The headlights were still pointing into the desert. And out there, in the pale glow, I saw it again. Closer this time. A figure, human-shaped, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its face featureless, like someone had forgotten to finish carving it. And the way it moved, slow, deliberate, like each step was being remembered from someone else's body. I slammed the car into reverse. Gravel sprayed out behind me, but the tires barely caught traction. For a second, the headlights flickered, and in that flicker, the figure was suddenly closer, right at the edge of the light. I didn't look again. I just floored it, back toward where the road should have been. But the diner, the neon sign, the old cars, they were gone. All of it swallowed by dark, and the road beneath me was changing. It rippled, like asphalt turning to water, then to glass. I could see my reflection under the tires and something else beside it. A shape leaning over my shoulder, mirroring my movements exactly. I screamed and jerked the wheel. The world went white for a second, then nothing. When I opened my eyes, I was parked on the shoulder of a paved highway. Daylight. Cars passing in both directions. My GPS said I was 20 miles outside of Wendover, back on the main route. Everything looked normal, except the dust on my windshield. When I wiped it away, letters appeared beneath it, drawn with a fingertip. Stay on the map. I got out, checked the back seat, the trunk, under the car. Nothing. Just wind and silence, and the faint sound of my hazard lights clicking. That night, in my motel room, I tried to pull up Hollow Creek Road on Google Maps. Nothing, not even an unlabeled track. But when I zoomed out, a faint gray line appeared. A line that looped in a perfect circle, ending exactly where it started, right beside a tiny marker that said Old Service Diner, permanently closed. I clicked it. Street view loaded, grainy and desaturated. And there I was, my car parked right out front. Headlights aimed into the dark. Only this time, there was someone standing beside it. Tall, still, face hidden by shadow. And I swear as I watched, the image glitched. Just once, but enough to see its head turn toward the camera, right before the screen went black. Hey everyone, before we start, like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. It helps the channel. Now, listen closely. It started when I moved into a quiet neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, friendly faces, perfect suburban life, or at least, it seemed perfect. The house next door always caught my attention. Dark siding, overgrown bushes, windows covered with yellowed curtains. I never saw anyone go in or out, but at night, a faint light flickered. Sometimes in multiple rooms. The first week, I thought it was just my imagination. Kids playing with flashlights, maybe a neighbor renovating. But the feeling of being watched started to grow. Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me. Shadows moving behind the curtains. Just a glance, and they were gone. One evening, around 9 p.m., I heard a knock. Soft, deliberate. At my door, I froze, thinking it was the wind. But then, another knock, louder, closer. I peeked through the window. No one was there. Just my empty driveway and the dark house next door. I tried calling my neighbors. No one picked up, even my own family. Out of town, unreachable, I realized. I was completely alone. Days passed. Small things started happening. The mailbox opened, letters shuffled. The gate to my backyard, slightly ajar, even though I was certain I had locked it. I began noticing patterns. The light in that house always flickered when I walked by. Shadows, moving, almost mimicking me. I could feel it, watching me, learning my routines. One night, I heard footsteps on the porch, slow, deliberate, not mine. I grabbed a baseball bat, heart pounding, opened the door. Nothing, just the empty street, the quiet neighborhood, and the house next door. Dark, silent, except for one window, flickering, almost alive. I started leaving lights on inside, pretending I wasn't home, hoping whatever was there would leave me alone. But the flickering continued, always always in the same rhythm, like it knew my every move. Then I noticed something worse. Footprints in my yard, small, barefoot, leading from the edge of my fence to my porch. But no one lived in that house, at least no one I could see. I tried talking to the police. They laughed it off. Old house, kids, maybe squatters, they said, but I knew better. This wasn't normal. I began recording at night. Security cameras, motion sensors, and every morning, footage gone. Corrupted, like it didn't want to be seen. And the shadows, they moved. Always just at the corner of the frame, never fully caught, but unmistakable. Neighbors whispered, "House has been empty for years." Owners disappeared. I laughed nervously, pretending not to care. But my gut screamed, "Stay away." I tried ignoring it, focusing on work, friends, anything. But every night, the knocking, the flickering, the footsteps, it followed me, even inside my own home. I could hear it pacing outside, just beyond my windows, watching, waiting. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke to a soft voice, not human, not anyone I knew, whispering my name. From the direction of the house next door, I froze, heart hammering. I couldn't move. The whisper grew louder, closer, insistent, and then silence. The next morning, nothing, no signs, no footprints, just my yard, quiet, normal. But the feeling never left. I knew whatever it was still there, watching, waiting. At night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow in my room felt heavier, every creak of the floor louder. I kept glancing at the window, half expecting movement. Around 3 a.m., I heard it, a soft scraping on my front porch, slow, methodical, deliberate. Not the wind, not an animal, someone or something was there. I grabbed my bat, flashlight, heart racing, opened the door. Empty, nothing, just my yard, quiet, normal, except the house next door. One window flickered, red this time. I stepped outside, flashlight sweeping every corner. Nothing moved, but I could feel it, watching me, like it was learning, waiting, testing me. I decided I had to know. I had to see inside that house. So I waited until midnight, slipped through the side gate. Careful, silent. Every step felt wrong, unnatural, like the air itself was thickening, holding me back. The front door cracked, ajar. I pushed it slowly. Floorboards groaned, echoing. Inside, everything was covered in dust, cobwebs. The furniture, old, decayed, and yet the faint light flickered from upstairs. I climbed the stairs, each step creaking under my weight. At the top, a long hallway, doors lining both sides, one door at the end, light seeping from underneath. Pulsing, almost alive. I reached the door, hand trembling, fingers brushing the knob, and I could hear whispers, soft, insistent, calling my name. I yanked it open. The room, empty, except for a mirror, and in the mirror, I saw myself standing behind me, but I hadn't moved. My breath caught. Eyes wide, the reflection smiled, a slow, deliberate, wrong smile, and then the lights went out. I stumbled back, tripped, hit the floor. When I scrambled up, everything was gone. The mirror, the hallway, even the stairs. The house, completely empty. Dust, cobwebs, silent. I ran out the front door. The yard, empty, quiet. But then I froze. Footsteps behind me, not fast, slow, deliberate, following me, always matching my pace. I reached my own yard, slammed the door, locked it, heart pounding, sweat cold on my skin, peered through the blinds. The house next door, dark, silent, no lights, no movement, but I knew it was still there, waiting. Days passed. I couldn't stay. Packed my things, left, and as I drove away, I glanced back. The shadow at the top window, watching me leave. smiling, even now, months later. I can't explain it. Every quiet street, every empty house makes me look over my shoulder. I know it's still out there, watching, waiting, and maybe it will come for me again. It was early October. Leaves turning red and gold. The air smelled damp, like smoke and decay. I had just moved into a quiet neighborhood. Houses lined the street, pumpkins carved on porches, children running, laughing, carrying candy bags. Everything seemed perfect until the shadows came. At first, I didn't notice. Just a flicker at the corner of my eye. A figure standing in someone else's yard, motionless watching. I tried to convince myself. Imagination, too many horror movies, but the feeling persisted. Heavier every night. I could hear soft footsteps behind me on the sidewalk. When I turned, nothing. One night, around 9 p.m., I was walking my dog, the moon thin, casting long shadows. I saw movement, a person, hood up, standing perfectly still. Watching me, I froze, heart hammering. The dog growled, low, warning me. The figure tilted its head, slowly, deliberately, and then vanished. I ran home, locked every door, checked every window, but I could still feel it, eyes following me, waiting, even inside. The shadows lingered. Days passed. Things escalated. Pumpkins smashed overnight. Footsteps in the leaves. Soft, deliberate. I tried to peek through the blinds. Nothing. Neighbors whispered, October's always strange. You get used to it. I laughed nervously. But I could feel it. Someone or something. Learning my routines. Waiting one evening, I decided to follow it. I walked the street, slow, careful. The shadows moved ahead, just out of reach. Whispers followed me, low, almost chanting. Names, mine included. At the end of the block, an abandoned house. Windows boarded, roof sagging, yet light flickered inside. Orange, like candle flames. I should have turned away, but curiosity, or fear, pulled me closer. I peered through a crack. The room, empty, dusty, but shadows moved along the walls, stretching, bending, like alive. I stumbled back, heart racing. Something breathed cold against my neck. When I turned, nothing. I ran home, slammed the door, locked it, double-checked every bolt. The shadows waited outside. Long, thin, stretching along street lights. I could feel them, whispering, promising they would return that night. I barely slept. The wind blew leaves across the street. Every rustle sounded like footsteps. Every shadow inching closer. I kept all lights on, every candle, every lamp, and still the shadows lingered, watching, always watching. By morning, I tried to convince myself just Halloween pranks, neighborhood kids. But the footprints in my yard, wet, leaf-covered, were deliberate, too human. I live alone, I know. October is just beginning, and I can feel it. The shadows, they are learning, waiting, and I don't know if I'll make it through this month alive. That night, the shadows returned, not just outside, but inside my home. Flickers, moving along walls, stretching across the ceiling. I could feel them, waiting. I tried to ignore them, but every time I blinked, they were closer. I could hear whispers, soft, urgent, calling my name, repeating it, over and over. The wind howled, rattling the windows. Every creak in the floor sounded like footsteps coming toward me. I grabbed my flashlight. That heart hammering, stepped into the living room and froze. The shadows had formed. Shapes, tall, thin, faceless. They moved with intent, circling me. I could feel their eyes, piercing, studying, judging. I screamed, but the sound didn't carry. The shadows seemed to swallow it. The room felt heavier, suffocating, like the air itself had weight. I ran toward the door, but it slammed shut. No wind. No hand, just slammed by unseen force. I tried to open it. Nothing. Locked. Solid. Impenetrable. I ran to the window. Looked outside. The street was empty, but the shadows were there, slithering along the pavement, creeping along houses, watching, waiting, smiling. I could hear voices now, not whispers. Words, low, chanting, almost like a rhythm. It sounded familiar, like my own heartbeat. Turned against me, I backed into the corner, breathing fast, bat raised. Trembling, the shadows converged, forming a single, enormous figure. Tall, impossibly thin, faceless. Its arms, long, reaching. Its body, fluid, moving like smoke. It spoke, without a mouth. The words, inside my mind. You belong to October now. I swung the bat. It passed through. Nothing. Like swinging at air. But the figure moved closer, faster. And I could feel its cold, seeping into my skin, into my bones. I stumbled, fell. The room turned. Upside down, spinning, shadows crawling. Inside me, over me. I could feel them, dragging me, pulling me toward nothingness. Then a flash of light, sunlight, piercing the window. I bolted upright. The shadows recoiled, shrieking, retreating, dissolving, vanishing into corners, walls. Nothing. I ran outside. The street empty, quiet, peaceful, leaves rustling, normal, but my chest still heaving, heart racing, hands shaking. I could feel them, watching, waiting, somewhere, just out of sight. The next days, I tried to act normal. Neighbors smiled. Carved pumpkins, children playing. Everything seemed fine. But I know better. Every October, I feel them return, watching from dark corners, from empty streets, from shadows that stretch too long, waiting for me to slip, to look away, to blink. I've learned you can't fight them. You can't reason with them. You can only survive, one October night at a time. And I don't know if I'll ever leave this neighborhood alive. When I was 12, I spent every summer at my grandparents' house. The backyard was huge, full of trees, a small orchard, and a creek. It seemed normal, peaceful, magical for a kid, until the night I saw it. It started with a whisper, soft, almost like the wind, but different, deliberate, calling my name. Lucas, it said, slowly, softly, but clearly. I froze, heart pounding. The backyard was empty. No one around, just the shadows of trees, stretching under the moonlight. I told myself it was imagination. The creek gurgling, the wind. Kids hear things at night. But the whisper came again, closer. This time, right behind me. I turned. Nothing. I tried to run, but my feet felt stuck, rooted to the grass. Then, movement. In the corner of the orchard. A figure, pale, blurred, like smoke, standing between the apple trees. Watching me, I screamed, and it vanished. The air felt heavy, thick, wrong. I ran inside, slammed the door. My grandparents asleep. The next day, I told my cousin. He laughed, said it was just shadows. But I could feel it, watching, waiting, from the trees, the creek, the grass. Days passed. The backyard seemed normal. Sunny, alive, but at night, the whispers returned. Names, my name, sometimes my cousin's, sometimes old words I didn't recognize. Echoing through the orchard, the flowers, the shed. One night, I stayed up, hiding in the living room, watching through the window, and I saw them, figures, small, humanoid, moving silently, between the trees, under the moonlight, not running, just floating, watching, waiting. I tried to speak, to call my grandparents, but my voice failed, choked, silent. The shadows stopped, and the orchard went still, like they knew I was awake the following week. Objects in the backyard began moving. A swing swinging, alone. A ball rolling across the grass. A garden rake leaning against the shed. Falling over, slowly. Like something pushed it, I told my grandmother. She frowned. Sometimes, spirits linger. Old energy from long ago. Just leave it be. Don't challenge it. I wanted to leave, but the backyard drew me. Every day, every evening, like something wanted me to notice, to see it, understand it, fear it. One night, I followed the creek, quietly, hoping to find the source of the whispers. The moonlight on the water, shimmering, but the shadows moved faster. Around me, dancing, circling, just out of reach. Then, I saw something impossible. A small tree, older than the others. And at its base, footprints, not mine. Not animal, too small, but wet, fresh, like someone, or something, had walked there minutes ago. I froze. Breath catching, the whispers came again. Directly behind me, I see you. Clear, harsh, unlike before. This time, angry, I ran. Faster than ever, through the orchard, past the shed, back to the porch, door slamming behind me. But when I looked back, the footprints were gone. That night, I barely slept, listening, waiting for the whispers to return. And I knew this backyard, my grandparents' backyard, was not safe. And it was watching, always watching. And that night, I couldn't sleep. The whispers were louder, closer, outside my window, in the backyard. I could feel them, moving, circling, waiting. I got up, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped onto the porch. Heart hammering. The air was cold, sharper than usual, leaves rustling. Like whispers on fire, I aimed the light toward the orchard and froze. The figures, small, shadowy, humanoid, they stood still, staring just beyond the trees, eyes glowing faintly like embers in the dark. I could feel their gaze, burning into me. I wanted to run, but my legs refused. Rooted to the wood of the porch, I could hear them whispering my name over and over. Lucas, Lucas, mocking, patient, eternal. Suddenly, one stepped forward, closer to the edge of the porch. Its form blurred, shifting, limbs bending unnaturally, like smoke, like liquid. I swung my flashlight, and it passed right through. Nothing. Nothing at all, I screamed, my voice trembling. The shadows surged, circling the yard, moving faster, faster, until it felt like the trees themselves were alive. Reaching, grabbing, twisting, I stumbled backward, fell. The flashlight skittered across the porch, beam bouncing, illuminating small, tiny figures climbing over the swing, crawling through the grass, all staring, waiting, silent, but full of intent. I scrambled inside, locked every door, but I knew it didn't matter. They were already inside, somehow, everywhere, whispering, calling, filling the air. A chorus of voices, overlapping, impossible. I see you. We know you. I backed into the corner, shaking, heart racing, and then silence. The yard, still, the shadows gone. For a moment, relief, until I looked toward the porch. Footprints, wet, leading toward the front door. Not mine, too small, deliberate, mocking. The next day, I tried to act normal, grandparents unaware, everything sunny, mundane, but at night, the whispers returned. I could hear the creek, gurgling, and something else, soft footsteps, pacing, circling, just outside, waiting for me to step into the yard. One evening, I gathered courage. I walked barefoot into the backyard, moonlight barely cutting through the orchard, shadows shifting, stretching, alive. I spoke, trembling. Who are you? No answer, only whispers, repeating my name, growing louder, and I could feel them, touching, brushing my skin, like icy fingers, crawling. Then, the orchard went silent, everything frozen. waiting, until I noticed movement. A small figure, human-like, pale, stepping from the base of the oldest tree. It held something in its hands, a tiny pumpkin, carved, with my name. Inside, a flickering light, alive, and I could feel its gaze. Piercing, watching, promising. I ran, faster than ever, back to the house, doors slamming behind me. But I knew it wasn't over. The shadows, the figures, the whispers, they would wait. For the next October night, when the backyard was quiet, and I was alone, even now. Years later, I avoid that backyard, avoid the orchard. But sometimes, in the wind, I hear faint whispers, calling my name. And I know they never left. They never will. It started with noises, soft, distant, coming from above my room. The attic. At first, I ignored it. Old houses make sounds. Wood expands. Roofs creak. But this was different. It was rhythmic. A slow, dragging sound, like footsteps. Then silence. Then a faint tapping. Again and again. Always after midnight. I tried to sleep through it. But one night, it was louder. Something was moving up there. Heavy, pacing, stopping directly above my bed. I stared at the ceiling, frozen, every instinct screaming, "Don't move," and then 3 knocks. Sharp, deliberate, perfectly spaced. I held my breath, eyes wide, counting the seconds. Nothing else came. The next morning, I told myself it was pipes, or maybe rats. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was something in the attic. Days passed. The noises grew bolder, dragging, whispering, sometimes faint laughter, faint, but definitely human. I tried to ignore it, until one night, the attic door creaked open. On its own, I froze in the hallway, cold air spilling down the ladder, like the attic had exhaled. I waited, nothing moved. Then the sound of a single step. On the wood above, I grabbed a flashlight, hands shaking. Each step up the ladder felt like a countdown. The beam of light cut through the dark, dust floating like snow, but the attic was empty. Boxes, old furniture, a rocking chair, everything covered in sheets, silent, still. I turned to leave, and then the flashlight flickered. When it came back, the rocking chair was moving, slowly, creaking, forward and back, forward and back. I stared, frozen. The air turned icy, my breath visible. Something whispered behind me, so close I could feel the air move. "Don't look," it said. I ran, down the ladder, through the hall. Didn't stop until I was outside, from the yard. I looked up. The attic window was glowing faintly, a shadow, standing there, watching me. I didn't go back inside that night. I slept in my car, engine running, lights on, trying to convince myself it was stress, lack of sleep, imagination. But the next morning, the attic door was open again. The ladder unfolded, and on the floor below it, a small pile of dust, shaped like a footprint. I couldn't ignore it any longer. The attic was calling me, or maybe warning me. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep. The house silent, except for the ticking clock, and my own heartbeat, loud, echoing. In my ears, I grabbed a flashlight, held it tight. Each step toward the ladder felt heavier than the last. The ladder creaked, groaned under my weight. Dust fell, covering my arms. The smell, old wood, mold, something else, something sharp, metallic, faint, like blood. At the top, the attic door loomed, dark, yawning, impossible to ignore. I placed my hand on the knob. It was cold, freezing, as if the house itself rejected me. I opened it slowly. A gust of air blew out, chilling me to the bone, and the flashlight flickered, then steadied. The attic looked normal, almost. Boxes stacked, furniture covered, the rocking chair in the corner. Still, but I could feel it. Eyes, watching me from the shadows. Breathing, counting, waiting. I stepped forward, careful, each movement measured. The floorboards groaned, every sound amplified. I froze, thinking I heard another step. Behind me, or beside me, I couldn't tell. Then I saw it, a figure, pale, small, standing in the corner between the boxes, its head tilted, eyes hollow, glowing faintly. It didn't move, but I felt it studying me, learning me, judging me. I swallowed, tried to speak. Nothing came out. My voice, gone, swallowed by the attic. The rocking chair suddenly moved. Forward, back, forward, and the figure stepped closer. Floating almost, sliding over the floor. No sound, no creak, just presence. I stumbled. Flashlight dropped, beam spinning, illuminating walls, dust, shadows. And I realized there were more than one. Small shapes, dozens, hiding, peering, around boxes, behind old chairs, whispering, soft, overlapping, my name, my name. The voice, everywhere. Inside my head, I tried to back away. But the ladder, gone. I spun, heart hammering. The attic, infinite, stretching. The walls, higher, darker, alive. Then, the largest one stepped forward. It raised an arm, pointed at me, and the others mimicked a dance, precise, unnatural. They were communicating, plotting, moving in unison. I could feel the air pressing. The temperature dropped. My breath came out in white clouds, and then something touched my shoulder. Cold, wet, skinless, like water. I screamed and fell, but there was no sound, only the whispers. Louder, screaming, my name. I scrambled, desperate. Finally, the ladder reappeared. I grabbed it, clawed up, falling, shaking, blood rushing, and the figures vanished. Instantly, I reached my room, locked the door, sweat pouring, shaking uncontrollably. But I knew they hadn't left. For nights after, the sounds continued, dragging, tapping, whispering, always from above, watching, waiting, patient, eternal. Months later, I went back with a friend. We opened the attic. Nothing, normal, empty. Just old furniture, dust, boxes. But when I looked at the floor, small footprints, wet, circling, leading to the corner where the rocking chair slowly creaked forward and stopped, like it was waiting. For me, I never sleep with the attic door closed. Never, because sometimes, just before dawn, I hear them whisper, calling my name. And I know, the attic, the shadows, they are still there, waiting, patient, hungry, eternal.